people, the right fits for you. And I think that there's probably a lot of people out there that envy you for having had those experiences.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I ran into some of that, but I just move on. I don't take it personal or whatever. And then let me tell you what else I ran into from the women. I had some women say stuff like, "I don't know why I like you."
Yeah. And that's usually that's usually somebody who doesn't really know themselves very well.
Exactly.
But there's
Welcome to another episode coming at you from ChooseYourRelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. Like, share this episode. I want to hear what you think. Love it or hate it. Leave me a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to the show. So, today, I have a special guest, and I would say she's a very, very uncommon woman, very interesting person. I would say she's lived a very atypical life. She's hitchhiked across the country, traveled and worked in a carnival for a season, roamed the streets of New York City, explored and taught alternative lifestyles and way of living. All of her experiences have led her to believe that boundaries are the key to not only saving ourselves, but our relationships. She's a big fan of amazing people, enjoying love, sex, romance, and relationships and functional lives, whatever that might look like from human to human, which is why she's thrilled to share her experiences and knowledge of boundaries with you. Plus, she's also an author of a book called Take No Shit. Build better relationships through discovering, creating, maintaining healthy boundaries in 3, sometimes 5 simple steps. My special guest today is Heather Claus. Welcome to the show. So, where you from?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Nice. So, how'd you get in the dating space? Because it's not something that we don't go to the school for. This is not like our career path. This is not something that we dream about doing. At least I haven't met anybody yet. Yeah, I could be wrong. But so how'd you get started?
So it's actually a little bit convoluted. So I got married, you see, okay. And we were terrible at it, just awful at it. We managed to stick it out for about 15 years through some abuse and so on and so forth. And then when I left my marriage, I decided that was a mess. I need to learn how to do better. So the first thing I did was start reading, because I'm a bit of a bookworm. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek, whatever you want to call it. I started reading books about psychology, books, love, sex, romance, relationships, like all these. In about a year and a half, I read 500 books, including books I found online. the books I found online were written by pickup artists, some of them, which got me involved in that community and seeing what people were talking about and doing. And I met a couple that I really, really resonated with. I went to some of the conventions, like I got on their forums. I was like the token chick in a lot of places, right? And I just learned more about humans and how we relate than I could have ever imagined, all while sort of healing myself and recovering from, being blindsided, because nobody gets into a relationship thinking, wow, this is going to really mess up your life, right? So, and so then I got into another relationship, which was better. And as it went on, I started to recognize some of the things that I'd been reading about and really understanding that this also was not going to work for me, even though it wasn't a bad relationship. It just wasn't, God damn, that's good, right? Yeah. So we split up, and again, just really digging in, started having some amazing dating experiences and just getting out there and being a part of the world. Met my partner, fell in love, was terrified that I was going to screw it all up, and laid all my cards out on the table. And since then, 10 years now, we have been working together, and I have been I've been moderators, I've been owner, I've been developer of various like dating and alternative websites, and I've been coaching people and writing and doing all the things, still learning as I go and helping other people find love beyond their wildest imaginations.
That's a wonderful story. That's like from rags to riches. One of those type of stories.
It was a lot of fun. It was a heck of a ride. And I am looking forward to, another 15, 20 years of this.
Yeah. When it comes to marriage, most people get into marriages and they don't really know what they're doing. Everything is just kind of like, let's just go on what we feel.
It's what we feel. It's also what we're taught, right? Too. We are taught not just, by what we see in our parents or the families around us, but also what we see on TV and the movies and whatever. We are taught mostly dysfunctional relationship stuff. And climbing out of that box, it takes like the sun, the moon, the stars in alignment and an act of Congress and, like serious work. Yeah. If you don't have somebody just saying, hey, don't do that. Do this thing instead. Right? Yeah. Try it out. Just try it out. See if it works for you. It goes against everything you've been taught, but just try it.
Yeah, I think you have to have somebody that's willing to stick it out with you. And a lot of times the people that came before us, our parents and grandparents, I found that a lot of them aren't willing to tell us the truth because they'll expose themselves.
I think it's also important to understand, though, that their truth is not our truth.
No, not at all.
They, the people that came before us, they grew up in a radically different time. Yeah. They were molded, just something that doesn't even relate to dating, although ultimately everything relates to dating and relationships. COVID, right? People our age who are having children or grandchildren now, those children and or grandchildren won't experience COVID in the same way that we did. They won't have gone into lockdown. They won't have had to come out of, a year or a year and a half of isolation and try to connect with humans again. Their truth will be radically different from our truth. And so that also makes a huge difference in how they are going to relate and what challenges they are going to face when they're connecting.
Yeah, it's like, because I always said that I always knew at an early age, when I was 19, 20, that I'm probably not going to have a relationship like my parents. It's probably not going to be like that, and also I knew that the path that my dad took, you work a job 25, 30 years and retire, and I like, that's not going to be me, Maybe
Exactly.
he's a better man than me. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's just not me.
It's a different world.
Yeah. I mean, he was born 1925, so I'm like, look, he's better man than me. Great, maybe he is. I don't know, but I just knew at an early age, I'm not gonna be able to work no job no 25, 30 years, and my mom was great. She was a great woman, great wife, and everything, but it ain't really about the other half for me. It's really about me.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just not going to, I knew I'm not going to be able to do that, because I started working these jobs, summer jobs. And I said, that's how it is on these jobs? I said, no. So that's how I knew. I said, I don't really know how it's going to go, but I knew it's not, my relationship ain't going to be like my parents. So I knew that at an early age.
And I think that's absolutely valid, because regardless of them, raising you and molding you and giving you a childhood and a good life and whatever, you're not your parents.
No.
Right? Just like, I don't know if you have brothers or sisters. I'm an only child, but even so, we are not our brothers. We're not our sisters. We are not our friends. We are individuals, which, I mean, that's one of the primary reasons that, when I reached out to you, I was talking about, how we learn to set boundaries in our lives. Because if we simply live our lives the way we are shown, we're essentially using somebody else's boundaries. We're wearing somebody else's underwear, and that's not going to fit us. And then we get into a relationship, and then we've got two people wearing the same pair of underpants a lot of times, and that's not going to work, right? Because we're not going to be able to do the things we need to do as individuals if we're constantly, attached at the hip. And that's one of the things that I think, more than anything, throughout the years, I've realized that knowing yourself is going to be critical to any relationship you have. And by relationship, I mean friendship, I mean family, I mean, whether you're dating, whether you're doing, no strings attached, FWB, booty call, whether you're trying to, get down and dirty for the rest of your life, whatever it is, you gotta know who you are and what you're willing to put up with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know who they are.
Bingo.
I think a lot of people don't. It's because even some of my closest friends, I see things in them and they can't see it. They be like, they kind of brush it off like, I'm not doing that. That's not for me or whatever. And I'm like, well, the thing that you're doing, you don't like it. So what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose by just trying something that you probably would like?
I think that there's a lot, like there's always the, okay, I don't want to do this. Okay, I respect your boundary, right? Like, that's simple. And I also think that a lot of people don't ever take steps that they might want to do or might be curious about because of fear, because of insecurity, because the unknown, right? And that's fair, right? People have to come to it when they're ready. And if the way I say it is, if adults are going to be miserable, that's their right. They're an adult. They can be as miserable as they want.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to be miserable, then it's up to them to find a way to make a change.
Yeah, I agree, but I always say, Don't come to me complaining though. That's the part, because if you come to me complaining all the time, I'll be like, hey, I told you, why don't you just try it out? You can always go back to doing whatever you was doing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, like sometimes you got to say, look, I am here for you. I am going to listen to you. I'm going to validate you. I understand we all go through tough times.
Yeah.
That's cool. If that becomes the thing we do together, that's not going to be fulfilling to me as a relationship, right? Even a friendship. If all we do is you know, kvetch and moan about things, it's not good enough. So how about I can offer you assistance, you can, you know, do this, or we can just not talk about that. We can do the things that we like to do together. We can go out, you know, roller skating or collecting hedgehog figurines or whatever it is that we do. And we don't need to be constantly complaining about our lives, because complaining doesn't actually get us anywhere unless we're searching for solutions.
Yeah. So how'd you get into the quote pickup world? The reason why I wanted to talk about that, because I met some of these guys back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And you know, a lot of that stuff was hilarious to me. You know, it was I think I read like what they used to send me, like books or whatever, you know. But a lot of that stuff was hilarious. I looked at it as entertainment, really. But and I actually hung out with some of these guys, and you know, it was a good gimmick. You know, it was fun. But if you really look at these guys, the concepts that they would tell people to do, and like the words or the phrases to say, and I always tell people, it's not the words, the phrase that works, it's the person that works. You know,
I say the same thing. I say, don't do the things, be the person who does the things.
Yeah.
However, I also say that sometimes you've got to do the things in order to be the person who does the things. You have to practice. You have to keep trying and failing in order to get it right.
Yeah.
And there was, I think, in a lot of what those people were offering, at least when I entered the community. So I entered the community as somebody who was doing internet marketing. I had started a business online. And so I met some of them at, you know, marketing conferences. And I was doing research into that area anyway, love, sex, and romance. So, oh boy, let's get into this. Let's learn about all of this. And I became friends with some of them. Most of them, like you, I was kind of like, oh, this is a gimmick. It's going to work some of the time, because gimmicks always do work some of the time.
Yeah.
But gimmicks don't, it's like clickbait, right? It doesn't lead to any sort of lasting satisfaction. Using those gimmicks, essentially guys would swoop in, try to razzle dazzle their way through something, right? And get laid before the woman realized what a jerk they were.
Yep.
and then they would get out. And that worked for some of them. Some of them got really good at that. I ended up gravitating more towards the guys that would then sort of like pick up the people who were so disappointed by like the emptiness of it all and work with them on creating like actual dating and lasting relationships. And I ended up even ghostwriting some of that stuff. Like I would write things out and then they would take it and put it in masculine voice, because who wants to listen to a woman tell you what to do? You get enough of that at home or, you know, whatever. And then I ended up being a part of some long-standing communities. One of them, one of my favorites is forum, still going, about like masculine dominance, reclaiming your masculine dominant energy and how to hold your space, how to have your boundaries in a relationship from, you know, that kind of sexual master and leader of the relationship type of position. And while I don't necessarily agree that that is required in order to have a good relationship, I think there's a lot of ways to have a good relationship. I think that in what I've seen, has done a lot of men and their women a lot of good. So that was part of my journey as well, is figuring out, setting the boundaries. Who am I? What am I willing to bring to a relationship? What am I not willing to have in any relationship that I'm in? What am I, how freaky am I willing to get? How much am I willing to experiment with the right person? And so on and so forth. And that co-created with me a life that is out of this world. I've got my partner. I've got loving friends and playmates. I've got parties that we throw. I've got, books that I write. I've got, people I've connected with all over the world. And I couldn't be happier. But I see a lot of people still doing that whole, I'm going to give everything I have to get into a relationship. And it ruins it, right? It ruins everything they have to offer because they're not valuing themselves, and therefore they don't value the relationship that they get as a result of that. And then they get in the same underpants as somebody else, and it's all a big mess.
I always say, man, do whatever works for you. I mean, I'm not the moral police. I always say, just because there's a lot of people do stuff in their relationships. Like, I'm not doing that. You can do that. If that works for you, great. Do whatever you have to do to keep your family together. It's really, for me personally, it's really all about the person that I'm dealing with. Every relationship is different. But I said, just do what works for you, man. I can't tell you what would work for you. You just have to simply try it. And at some point, every couple months, couple years go by, and if you don't like how it is between you and this person, maybe y'all should sit down and talk about it. I don't know.
Oof. I mean, yes. And every couple months, couple years, like as soon as something feels like it's not working, that's the time to bring it up. Don't wait a couple years.
Yeah, I mean, whenever, and a lot of times, the conversation is never going to be easy. I don't think so, whatever. But at the same time, you shouldn't let that scare you or, have you not wanting to talk about it. But I don't think people should sneak around. I don't think you should sneak around and cheat. I just don't think that's a good idea today at all.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. I think I'm a pretty, I'm like you, do what works. Yeah. I'm a pretty open-minded person. I know there are reasons that people feel like they don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
I get it. However, I'm with you. If you want to be, and this is the term that I use for it, if you want to be non-monogamous,
great,
and be ethically non-monogamous, make that clear with every person you're getting into a relationship with. Hey, I'm not monogamous. I live my life in such a way so that, I don't just date one person at a time. And if you're not cool with that, that's fine. I wish you the best. I don't want to get into a relationship where one or the other of us harms each other because, we're not able to agree on how we do these things.
Yeah, I would say, and I always say, being that I went in the Navy, right? And I said, when I went in the Navy, that was a gift and a curse, because that exposed me to too many things too fast at an early age. And when I got out the Navy, you can't forget what you saw. You can't forget what you experienced. So,
True.
and then I started to, I still associate with the same people. When I was in the Navy, right? So, every environment, is different, but at the same time, that same environment in the Navy, that's out here. And it found me.
I think sometimes like something like military service or for me, it was moving to New York when I was younger. I like to say you either find yourself or you lose yourself.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have a really strong core of like who you are, it's so easy to get lost in licentiousness or hedonism or all of the things and just to, get overwhelmed with all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
I just dove in and, as they say here on the coast, I just let the current take me. Right. I didn't fight.
Yeah.
And I came out the other side with a really strong core of who I am. But that also took a lot of work after that, marriage of mine and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to, get through for all of that.
Yeah. And plus, I never approach relationships like most people. I don't go into it and say, she's going to be my everything. She's going to fulfill all my needs, dreams. I just never approached it like that because I know that's impossible. You cannot get everything out of one person. I don't care how great you think she is. Look, she might be a great woman for you. And that's wonderful, right? But that doesn't mean she's going to fulfill all your needs whenever, however, and with whoever. No. No.
I don't know. I would say it's possible.
It's possible.
But not probable.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's important to ask yourself when you're getting into a relationship, do you want a relationship where the other person fills every need? And do you want to be the person that has to fulfill their every need? Because that's a big ask. There's a lot of pressure in a relationship like that. And I'm with you. Like, I tend to go into relationships saying, hey, let's take a look at what I call the sweet spot. It's a Venn diagram, right? You got your two circles, this is what I want. This is what you want. Where we overlap, that's the sweet spot. So I go into a relationship saying, okay, where do we overlap?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do I want? And then we look at the things that we both want and we say, okay, here's our relationship. And that's for friendship. That's for dating. It's for play. It's for, long term. What do we both want? That's where we build whatever relationship we have. And for my long-term relationship, we probably have an overlap of, off the top of my head, 85%, which is really solid. But I have zero desire to go road biking with him. And he has so far exhibited zero desire to go thrifting with me. So those things don't have to be part of our relationship, right?
No.
Like, he does that with his friends. I do this with my friends, and then we can come back together.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%, but I know if I didn't go in the Navy, I would have been traditional guy, traditional marriage. I probably would have had kids. I probably wouldn't be in North Carolina. I probably have been home. I probably been one of those guys that I know back at home that never went anywhere. I probably would. Of course, I would have traveled every once in a while and took the family somewhere, but I wouldn't have been traveling all over the world, no, I would have never. It would have never happened. You know?
You might have gone to the Grand Canyon, but not Bangkok.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I probably would have never went to Thailand. I probably would have made
Thailand.
The furthest I probably would have went is Vegas. That's probably in New York, because I got family up there or whatever. But I wouldn't have never been exposed to different people in different relationships, and I probably wouldn't have been doing this. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't have wrote no books, none of that stuff, because you meet people along your journey, people from different walks of life. Maybe they from a different culture, they speak a different language, and you somehow you find a way to get along, even though they say it's impossible. You should get along. So that's why I say it's a gift and a curse. I mean, going in the Navy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. I think that also one of the things that is really exciting about things like that, is that you get to all of a sudden you like expand really big, right? You have all these experiences, and so all these possibilities of who you could be, and then you get to pull back and really pick and choose the parts that resonate with you, right? And when you talk about making women come to you, right? Or when I talk about, being attractive to others, the most, the sexiest, most attractive people I know have excellent boundaries because they know who they are, right? So knowing who you are can help you cut out all those things that don't matter, that don't add value to your life and relationships. And so people see that, right? And I'm sure you can relate to this as well. And I'm sure you've probably talked about it on this show, how when you walk into a room and you just know it's going to be an amazing evening because that's the core of who you are.
Yeah.
People see that. They recognize that energy.
Yeah.
And they're attracted to it like moth to a flame. And that's why, when I talk about like boundaries, the original title for my book, instead of Take No Shit, was Boundaries Are Sexy AF, because the idea of creating boundaries that make you feel yourself, your authentic self, makes you sexy to the right people, the right fits for you. And I think that there's probably a lot of people out there that envy you for having had those experiences.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I ran into some of that, but I just move on. I don't take it personal or whatever. And then let me tell you what else I ran into from the women. I had some women say stuff like, "I don't know why I like you."
Yeah. And that's usually that's usually somebody who doesn't really know themselves very well. Exactly. But they're seeing something, right? Yeah. And they can't quite put their finger on it because they don't know who they are and what that's responding to in you. But they're responding to it because you know who you are.
Yeah.
And women love men who know who they are. Well, at least heterosexual women love men who know who they are. And men feel the same way most of the time about women. But do you remember back in the pickup artist days, the pickup artist who told men to go for the low self-esteem women?
Oh, yeah.
The women who didn't know who they were. Yeah. And the reason they did that is because those pickup artists knew that most men didn't know who they were either. And they wouldn't be able to get the high self-esteem women, because those women who have good boundaries, that are healthy in like their mind and body and heart, would see right through them. Like, that's some bullshit you're shoveling for me right there, right? So also the idea of, I know who I am, and I recognize in you that you know who you are. So we can actually come together as equals and figure out what kind of fun we're going to have. That is terrifying to people who don't know who they are and what they really have to offer.
Yeah, that'll scare them.
Yeah.
I got to get away from you. Yeah, I don't talk to her, but I see her. She follows me online. She said, that's too much influence for one person to have over somebody. I'm like, what?
See, and that's exactly what I mean. So in that language, she is literally saying, I will not be able to maintain my boundaries around you.
Yeah.
Which to her, I would say, strengthen those healthy boundaries, girl, because no matter what relationship you get into, you're going to need them, right? Yeah. Like, it's, I will tell you this, my partner, I have never in my life met a better human, a better man, a better lover, a better friend, ever. And yet, you know, people will say to me, oh my gosh, you know, the two of you, you're so cute, you're so amazing together, you know, couple goals. And I say, you know what? We're doing good so far. That's the key to me, is that I'm not giving up any of who I am just to be in a relationship with him. And I don't expect that of him either. We're coming together and creating the best possible love of our lives for both of us, right? And that requires good boundaries. It requires us to be able to speak up and say, hey, I need more X, or hey, this thing you did, that doesn't work for me. I don't like it. It's going to cause issues in our relationship. And be able to have those discussions and be healthy about it, and not just be like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, I'll do anything for you, until like it just doesn't work for me anymore, and then I become a hysterical mess.
Yeah, you know, I think sometimes if the woman doesn't know who she is, and I see something in her, now I do use that to my advantage, but I have good intentions though. I don't do anything that would I don't do anything negative. You know?
Okay, White Knight.
Yeah, I don't do anything negative.
Mr. Fixer-Upper, I hear you.
Not necessarily, fixing, but now this has happened quite a few times where it's like she might not understand why she was feeling what she was feeling, but I understand. So I'm like, let's just have fun. Let's just get to know each other, and let's just see where things go, you know. And even though she's kind of like, you know, feeling like, I don't understand why I feel the way I feel or whatever, you know. I said, but it's okay, you know. It's, you know, nobody's, everything's safe. But yeah, that's yeah, but I know a lot of guys that have abused situations like that.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
I do too. I know a lot of humans that have abused situations like that with other humans.
Yeah. It's
like, not, it is not just the men, right? There are predatory
Yeah.
Femmes and thems out there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like when you meet a brand new person, somebody you never met before, and y'all hit it off, right? Y'all click. And maybe y'all move fast. You invite them over, or they invite you over to their house or whatever. And you took advantage of them. You took advantage of their kindness. They might have done something out of the kindness of their heart or whatever, and you took advantage of them just because.
I'll tell you what, though. Here's the thing. When that happens, you taking advantage of people. Long term, you're only taking advantage of yourself. Yeah. Because every single time you pull shit like that, like the pickup artist community or whatever, every single time you do that, every single time you run that pattern over again, you are affirming to yourself that is the only way you get the relationships, the love, the affection, the bow chicka wow wow, whatever it is, right? Is every time you run that game, you make it harder and harder to not run that game. And you get stuck in inauthenticity, and it's a mess. Yeah,
and those women, or those people, because it's men and women that I ran into, that we hit it off and we're cool, whatever. They, of course, they had people that did take advantage of them. But they said, hey, but they came back to me. They said, you know what? I always respected you because you never took advantage of me. You was always straight up. I always respected that about you. And, they said, if you ever need anything, you let me know. because they were vulnerable. I could have taken advantage of them because it's a cold world out here, man. Everybody ain't the same. Some people don't see things the same. Some people raised different. Some people are predators. But I just never looked at it like that. I always looked at it like, if I know this person is, a genuine person, I'm not going to shit on them.
Oh, I think that's a really critical viewpoint, right? Like the idea that I am going to treat people with compassion. And I actually, I talk about that in my book. I talk about boundaries and ethics are two sides of the same coin. So boundaries are who we are and how we allow people and things and behaviors into our lives. And ethics are how we choose to treat people, even when we don't agree with them, we don't know who they are, whatever. And having compassion is a key element.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's, you use the king of making women come to you. A king, someone with power, real power, not like, all that talk, right? Yeah. But someone with real power. Those are the people who have the strength to be compassionate. If you don't have the strength to be compassionate, even in stressful situations, as soon as you start to break down, that's where your weakness is. Yeah. Right? As soon as you treat somebody else poorly for your own gain, that's your weakness, right? And that's what you need to be looking at. You are not as strong as you need to be if you start treating people badly.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So let's talk about your book. First off, what made you write the book, and what it's all about?
So there's another story. Last year, this was in 2023, in the summer, I got a genetic test diagnosis that was essentially, it was it was a little disturbing. And so I was going through a lot of like thought processes and preparing for several surgeries and in order to preserve my health and so on and so forth. And my birthday's in August. And so I decided to take a sabbatical for the month of August and work on some sort of passion project. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I decided I was going to do it. And as I entered August, I took a couple of days and I thought about it and I said, you know what? I keep talking about writing this book about boundaries because I really believe that knowing who you are and having really good boundaries, negotiating your relationships is key to a good, successful relationship in this day and age, right? In our lives. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I've been sort of talking about it and sort of putting ideas together I've been doing that for like a year. And so I said, I'm going to do it. So I literally went out and I said, who wants to be in a community with me while I write this book live? So I've created a community in the first week of August for people to watch me write the book live. And I started writing, and that was my accountability. And I wrote a bunch of chapters. And then as I went through all of these surgeries and so on and so forth, I started looking at what I'd written. I was like, I just wrote an entire textbook. Like I could teach a college class on boundaries and people aren't going to read a textbook about boundaries. So I went back in and I edited the whole thing and condensed it down. And now it's really a guide to 3, sometimes 5 steps. Setting a boundary. So what are boundaries? How do you figure your boundaries out, right? So setting the boundaries, say the boundary, communicating the boundary with whomever you need to communicate it with, and then reviewing. Those are the 3 primary steps, right? You may not need to go any further than that. You might say the boundary, and then when you review what happened, everything went perfectly. You don't ever have to worry about it again, right? That's the ideal. But then there's 2 extra steps in case everything did not go perfectly. And that is repeat it, right? So bring it up again, have a deeper conversation, maybe explain it more, talk about steps you can put into place in order to make these things work. And then the last one is change, right? Somebody's still not honoring who you are as a person, what you need in your relationships, whatever. You've got a choice. You can change what you're willing to accept, or you can change your circumstances, right? That's all on you. The power in all of this is centered on the self. So it's kind of like this was my first step in coming out of that abusive marriage, was to figure out who I was and where I was going to start setting my boundaries. So this book is like that first step towards the most amazing, fulfilling, loving life I never imagined back then. I could not have imagined it back then. And I'm pretty passionate about it because, it touches on so many aspects of our life.
Yeah. So
especially dating. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. Do you think it's difficult to learn boundaries if you didn't have it growing up?
Yes.
Because some people, they grew up, the parents let's let them do whatever. That was their childhood, right?
Yeah.
And then they entered their adulthood, same thing. It's like, hey, I just do whatever. I'm like, yeah, but you can't you can't go to other people's house and do whatever, bro.
Yeah.
Like you have to respect people's rules. This is, if you go to their house, you have to you can't say whatever you want to say. You can't do whatever you want to do. This is my environment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're talking, specifically about the way people transgress on others' boundaries, right? So to me, what you're speaking about is you're speaking about ethics, how we treat other people.
Yeah.
Those people who treat everything like it doesn't really matter, like they can do whatever they want, they are often the same people who feel the most put upon by everyone else. Yeah. Because they don't know how to maintain their sense of self and draw those boundaries for themselves, so they don't recognize it in others. So, for example, let's take a dating example, right? You probably have quite a few listeners who have been in relationships where they felt constantly taken advantage of, right? Used, and the challenge there is that we often approach relationships as a control or be controlled scenario. So we get into these relationships and it's like, I get to do these things, therefore you get to do those things, but it's not discussed. And it ends up where people just feel like somebody else is getting to do all of these things that they didn't want, they didn't ask for, and they don't like. And usually, if you dig down into both sides of that relationship, both people feel that way because they both have craptaculous boundaries and neither one of them is communicating what they want and need out of a relationship in a way that's effective, right? So yeah, it's really hard, really, really hard to learn boundaries if you didn't have them when you were young. There's a quote that I use, David Earl: the more severe the dysfunction you experienced growing up, the more difficult boundaries are for you, right? Craptaculous boundaries are not your fault. We are not taught boundaries. We are not modeled boundaries. In fact, we are taught and modeled the opposite. And it messes us up and it messes up our relationships.
Yeah, I always say, look, we don't get to pick our parents. You know? No. Some of us will be like, I wish I had different parents. Look, you don't get to pick our parents. Just be grateful that you came out. You made it.
Well, you know, what we can say is you can't pick your parents, but you can pick the people that you choose to model yourselves after. So we got Daddy Sharp here and Mama Heather, and we're telling you, you know, get some boundaries, get your game going.
Yeah. Like, I think sometimes, like, when you meet a new person, I think sometimes if you sit, let's say you're sitting down at the table talking to them. Let's say you're at a restaurant, you're sitting down at the table talking to them, and you're trying to get to know them. They're trying to get to know you. They're trying to get a feel of what type of person you are. I've met people, women, and after first, second meetup, they came to a conclusion like, hey, this guy is, I'm not going to be able to do nothing with him. He's the captain of his own ship. He's doing whatever he's doing. Yeah. You know, so, you know, we didn't even get to the boundaries.
No. So that's absolutely, you did get to the boundaries because you came as yourself. Yeah. Right? And so let's back to the pickup artist community. Do you remember those like silly little like lines that they would tell you, like walk up to a group of women and pick out like the second hottest one? And, you know, like, and so those were tests. Yeah. Right? They were obvious. They were lame, but they worked. Those were tests. We are constantly, when we're doing the dating thing, we're constantly testing each other, right? And those women, whether they were conscious of it or not, were running their game, running their tests on you, and they failed. So they don't feel comfortable with you because they couldn't redirect your behavior. into a way that was good for them.
Exactly.
Right? That it was absolutely boundaries, because if you know who you are, you're not going to let them redirect your behavior just to get into their panties.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, thank you. That's a little too much engine for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's fine. Not a good fit.
Exactly. You know, that's why I always say everybody's not for everybody.
Absolutely.
You know.
I mean, I tell people I am absolutely not for everybody. For some people, I'm like hellacious catnip. For others, no. Poison, death, not good.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't want to be for everybody. My life is full.
Yeah. So the book can be found on Amazon.
Right now, the digital version is available for pre-order up until September 20th. So exciting. And then by the end of October, the print and the audio versions ought to be available as well. So yeah. And if they go to my website, they can sign up for emails to be notified. And if they'd like, they can actually download a 100-page sample. You can download 100 pages of my book free. You don't even have to give me your email address. If you want to learn about boundaries and you want to see whether I'm the person to learn about boundaries from, you can download 100 pages of my book, one of the early drafts, and see if that works for you. Because I am freaking confident that everyone can benefit from my book. I give you the meat. I mean, and you know this, Sharp, right? Like if you go online and you're downloading an ebook and somebody's like, I'm going to tell you the secret or whatever, they rarely get to 100 pages. No. I'm giving you 100 pages, and I know that there's still so much more in that book that you can benefit from that you're going to want it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Steps and made that cohesive. And then I kept all of those other chapters, and those are going to be discussions on like podcasts like this or on videos or whatever, so that, you know, and I also do a workshop called Take No Shit, and I do coaching. So those are all things that for me end up being valuable to my clients and my readers and my listeners and so on. So I don't know. I have a lot of opinions.
That's a good thing. So who's your ideal client in a perfect world? Is it women, single men?
Actually, I work mostly with men. I have a couple of women, and I have a few couples who want to create better lives. For me, the ideal client is someone who is a good person at heart, right? They're not trying to game the system. They're not trying to take advantage of other people. They're a good person at heart, and they just need somebody to help them shape that sense of themselves, the value that they bring to their relationships, and help them get through the stages of, like, some people say, you know, like they are not, okay. So I have this theory. Are you, what's the best way to put it without getting too vulgar? So are you bangable? Yeah, that's the word I'll use. Bangable. Are you bangable, right? Do people want to bang you? And when I talk about that, I'm talking about do enough people in your life want to bang you that you're satisfied with the number, right? I don't care how many people that is. It might just be one. But are you bangable? Are you lovable? Right? Do people who don't want to bang you or borrow money want to spend time with you? Right? And then, is it sustainable? Right? So there's a lot of people who can get the bang and who can get that love, but then it fizzles. Right? Those are the three places that I really like focus in for somebody Where are we in these things and what do we need to focus on? And then I can talk about everything. I work with kinky people. I work with non-monogamous people. I work with virgins. I work with people who are in their 60s and nearing, they're in their empty nesting years and they're trying to bring the passion back. I work with, couples who are going through a rough time right now. I just went through my own health crisis and weathered that with my partner and maintained our passion and our sex and our love. So those are the three main things. Are you bangable? Are you lovable? Are you sustainable? And each one of those things has importance in a fulfilled life.
You're preaching the gospel. So if people wanted to follow you and work with you, where would they go to?
My.curiouser.life is the best place to sort of access the things that you can do for and with me. And like I said, that's also where you can download the sample of the book free without any obligation. I won't even put you on an email list. That's separate, right? Because again, I want people to, for me, part of boundaries is radical consent. You want to read part of my book, I want you to read part of my book. I'm not going to require you to give me your email if you're not into that. However, I expect once you've read part of my book, you're probably going to want to come and stay, learn a little bit more, give me your email, find out more about me, work with me, whatever. And if not, that's fine. We're not a fit, right? Super easy. I like making it easy for people because my life is easy. And that's actually what I want your life to be. I want your life to be easy and fun and full of love and, consensual bangery if that's what you're into or whatever. That's what I'm here for. I'm not a traditional person. I'm not going to be like, you have to do things this way. You said earlier, you're a fan of do what works for you. That's actually an introduction in my book. Do what works. I'm not you. You are not me. What works for you and your partner or partners is not necessarily what's going to work for me and my partners. Let's explore this together.
I agree 100%. All links will be below. Until next time, we're out. Peace. If you like this video, share this video. And if you want to support my channel, click the thanks tab and leave me a donation. 2, 5, 10. Thank you.